My video for August 4th, 2019 is video number 3167. The title is How They Stole My Non-Mortgaged Home. Meeting and talking briefly with Robin's dad, a retired judge, triggered lots of memories for me. As I said in the previous video, he was originally set to be the judge in the case of PNC Bank against me. The judge that was now assigned to the case would not allow me to present affidavits and other pertinent information in regard to the case. Why? Because PNC Bank had opened a brand new case, and the judge said that my documents were not relevant in that case. No matter what I did, he would not allow my evidence to be submitted and have a bearing on the outcome. When I returned to my home after that hearing, it was surrounded by police and sheriff deputy vehicles. I was given a matter of hours to remove my personal belongings, and even that time was cut short by nearly an hour and a half from what I had been told in court. Therefore, many personal items were trashed, although I learned that neighbors were going through the dumpsters. Yes, there were 2 large dumpsters, and taking whatever they wanted. After that, they simply gave up, I simply gave up, realizing that the deck was stacked against me by show of force. Now, when all of this was happening, I was part of the Florida Republic, and an individual from New England who convinced me that he had studied a lot of law, convinced me to put the house in a non-statutory trust, which I did. But then he himself started getting into legal problems. And so I asked him, please send me back the paperwork, because he held the paperwork for me in New England. And I live in Florida, of course, so that was not the way I wanted it. So anyway, he did return the things, and then I lost touch with him. I've not been able to get in touch with him all this time later. Many years now, I have not been able to contact him. But I had it in a non-statutory trust, and when PNC Bank's attorney came to me and said, if you let us sell the house on Merritt Island, if you give us clearance, because your name is on the deed, and we can't sell the house without your permission. If you give us permission, we will allow you to keep the other home, and it's free and clear. Well, of course, they lied, but I created an affidavit and submitted it as the part of the court records. And I did go through all my files, but I have them somewhere, I hope. I still have them. I have a lot of paperwork from the case. And the affidavit was never rebutted, stating what they had told me. If I let them sell the house, which I did, and they did, then I could keep the house that I was living in. Well, of course, they lied. Lawyers and liars, to me, are mostly synonymous terms, although there are exceptions. And I'd like to believe that Robin's dad, a retired judge, would be able to help me. But of course, I don't know how much pull a retired judge would have in the system. But even if he were to help me, there's been so much time that has elapsed, although there is no statute of limitations on fraud. And as I see it, and have always seen it, PNC Bank committed fraud. But bear in mind, I was not paying property taxes on the house for the first 2 or possibly 3 years. And that was what enabled PNC Bank to file a claim against the house. And when I finally, after I when I realized what was going on, and my friend in New England had returned the papers, I went and tried to pay property taxes, because another friend told me that you better at least keep the property taxes up. So I offered actually to pay not only the current ones, but the previous ones, but they says, no, you don't own the house, PNC Bank owns the house. But of course it took them a number of more years before they finally were able to take the home away from me. This is all from my recollection as best I can recall, but since it was so important to me, I'm sure I recall most of it quite accurately, although it may not be perfect. In any case, folks, that's the story of how they, in brief format, that's the story of how they took my home. I mean, to me, it was all a fraudulent maneuver by PNC Bank, but in a sense, I was convinced that I could create a non-statutory trust. What does non-statutory trust mean? It statutes, which are not law, by the way. There's a difference between law and statute. Common law is law which is recognized as being given to us by our Creator. Statutory law is laws made up to deceive us and defraud us of our individual property and our natural rights. People don't know that, but that's the truth as far as I know it. And I don't understand, again, why it is allowed to keep going on and on and on with no apparent remedy, where the establishment, if you will, which to me is a criminal operation, continues to operate with impunity, and justice is never forthcoming, although there have been many attempts and promises made to establish things properly, and some of the people that have been involved in that have been killed, others have been imprisoned, and I don't know what happened to my friend. I think he was right, but he was another one like me that was fighting the system, and I don't know what happened to him. I've reached out several times and tried to make a connection. I'm unable to do that. So whether he's alive or dead, I don't know. Whether he's free or in prison, I don't know. In any case, that's the story behind the story of how they stole my home. And I would like Robin's dad, if he has any pull in the matter, to at least investigate and inquire, because I am convinced that I still have something coming to me, that if justice is served, I have remedy, and I can end up taking PNC Bank to court, and the money that they owe me for the damages that they did have been accumulating interest all that time. And so it could be a pretty healthy amount of money coming my way. Will I ever see that? I don't know. Just like the RV, promises and remedies seem to come and go, and they continue to change the remedies and change which UCC code applies. So it's a convoluted mess, in my opinion. But I really do appreciate Robin, and I was glad that I finally got to actually talk briefly with her dad, and seems like a really nice man. And actually there were others that were sitting with me in the concert that also seemed to be from the same grouping of people, if you will, and have some clout as far as in the legal system. And not all lawyers or attorneys are bad people. Obviously, I'm never making blanket statements that all these people are bad. That's simply not true. I know far too many Jews and Catholics and people of various religions, even Muslims, that are really, really good people. And I wish we could get beyond judging and condemning people and actually start to build bridges, as I keep on saying and will keep on saying. Thank you, folks, for listening, and namaste.